session 4 of living the resurrection life in our communities. So we've talked about being salt and light, making a difference to the community that we live in. Matthew chapters 5 to 7 gives us teaching on how to live so that others will see a difference. It's Jesus' teaching on what it means to be his follower. It's called the Sermon on the Mount because Jesus went up the mountainside, sat down and began to teach his followers. As Moses went up Mount Sinai and received the commands on how to live as God's people, so Jesus now goes up a mountain and gives his teaching on how to live as his followers. He doesn't alter any of the laws of Moses, but he focuses on how God's laws should be obeyed in all our motives, our actions, our business, our language, our thought life, our priorities, stressing the importance of inward obedience rather than outward observance. God wants loyalty, not legalism. After Jesus says that he wants us to be salt and light to our communities, he then begins to detail how, and we're going to just look at some of those. First one is murder. Now, we all agree that murder's not right, but Jesus says, but it's the attitude behind the murder, the act of murder, matters just as much. It's just as bad as the actual act itself. And then he goes on to say, if anyone calls their brother a fool, he's in danger of the fires of hell. That's Matthew 5:22. Now that's fairly strong, but what he's pointing out is that the attitude that looks at another person as rubbish, someone who's worthless, lesser than they are, is wrong. Doesn't mean we can't point out to someone that they've made a very foolish act or what they did was very foolish, but it's judging the person rather than the act, calling them a fool rather than that was foolish. We're made in the image of God, and we need to see that image in everyone around us, and we need to honour that image. It's not always easy, but when we take seriously a person whom everyone else puts down as stupid, then that person sees the love of God speaking through us. The next issue he spoke about was adultery. And again, he goes behind the issue of actually sleeping with someone else's husband or wife. He says it's the desire that's in our heart. And he talks in terms of pluck out your eye if it offends you, cut off your hand if it offends you. Now, those are pretty strong words, and he doesn't actually mean to do that. But what he's saying, the strength of the language shows how important it is to deal with issues that would feed the desire of lust within us. So things like just taking a quiet look at pornography can't do any harm? Well, watching a TV show when the bounds of marriage mean absolutely nothing, and it's pretty hard to watch a TV show these days without that. These things may seem harmless, but they're feeding a very strong drive within us, and that strong drive can easily break out when we are strongly tempted. As followers of Jesus, we need to be living lives that not only avoid avenues that lead to lust, but actually uphold the sanctity of marriage. Our lives should be beacons of love and acceptance and of pure living. That way the community can see the truth of God.